What's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast on the road. Yeah, it's April vacation, so me and the missus, we headed down to Florida. She's a teacher, teaches third grade, so we got out. But we didn't, it's a week before the draft. We didn't want to leave you hanging. We needed to get Phil a quick glance interview. We got Chris Sims from NBC Sports. He's going to join us to talk quarterbacks, to talk draft, to talk Patriots. So I hope you enjoyed this interview. Now, we're not going to have anything else on Thursday, okay? Prepare yourself. You're going to have Phil's Next Pats podcast. You're going to have all this to chew on. And then next week, draft week, we'll be back at you with a mock draft on Monday. 3-team mock. We'll actually enact it. And then as the week goes along, we will hammer you with pods and analysis as the Patriots get ready for the 21st overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft. But without any further ado, we're going to bring you Chris Sims, former Patriots employee, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback, former Texas Longhorn, and one of the best and most entertaining analysts that we have. Here it is. All right, so here's our guy. It's Chris Sims, our NBC brethren. Thank you so much for taking the time. I have been straight out this week, as you might imagine, on vacation. Chris, how long have you known Bill Belichick?
Well, I mean, remember first meeting him, of course, when I was around 6, 7 years old. I mean, it's around that time frame, 86, 87, 88. It would be around that. Can remember having at least some more vivid interactions and conversations as I got a little older towards the end of my dad's career, 89, 90. And then, we crossed paths as life went on. But not that I've always had like the greatest personal relationship with him, but I think where I've learned so much about Belichick more than anything. Yeah, I worked with him, but working with him doesn't exactly make you best buddies with him. But my dad's covering of the Patriots through the glory years, the early years, the start of the dynasty, and my dad was the #1 guy at CBS at the time, and he did so many of those games, and that's where I feel like I know Belichick more than anything. It's just the stories he would tell my dad, the little inklings he would say about how to coach or his thoughts on this and that, and my dad, it's rarely that he goes by without quoting some knowledge or something like that of Bill Belichick. So it's been a long time, but don't talk to him anymore. And I don't know if he really loves me anymore ever since I left New England. I'm not sure about that.
I think it's Bill is a guy who's got a lot of transactional relationships. If
Sure.
you're doing for him, that's great. If you're not seeing things his way, and it's not as great. No, I don't think it's hostile. Sure. He doesn't get hostile, but
not at all.
But be that as it may. So he's been a part of your life for 40 years in one way or another. And you remember him from the Giants years and winning Super Bowls. Definitely. I look now towards what's probably the autumn of his career.
Right.
Just turned 70 last week. What impact will his post-Brady period have on his legacy?
It's not going to really have any impact on me. I know that. And I don't, again, I don't think it really should, no matter what happens. And again, he built the greatest dynasty we've ever seen in the history of football. So that to me is like, okay, mic drop, you can leave whatever you want. But I know there's those people out there, and why you're asking that question, that people are going to go, well, was it Brady? Was it Belichick? Was it Brady? Was it Belichick? Well, it can be both. But, in this case, too, I'm one that goes, no, Belichick was first, and Brady could barely win the starting job at Michigan, and they played a certain style of football early on that didn't make Brady have to do all that, and he groomed the whole thing up. So that's where he's special to me. And then Brady, of course, through the experience, just got better and better, and, of course, he's the GOAT now, right? So I'm always going to be like, no, Belichick is the absolute man, the greatest coach in the history of American sports and the NFL in a period, and of course, like all this, where the sport was made to be equal. It's like everything was equal except for one thing, that the Patriots were in the Final Four every year, and they were the only team that could do that. So he's amazing that way. Legacy, post-legacy, I don't know what he has to do to appeal to the people who are on the fence with the Brady-Belichick thing. Does he have to make a deep run into the playoffs? Probably. Maybe get to the Super Bowl. I more or less look at it, and I think he's already on the way there, of just setting the team up for more years for success. whether he continues to go or he retires 2 or 3 years from now and hands it off to somebody else. To me, he's already turned the franchise around in a spot to where you go, they're pretty good across the roster. There are a lot of pieces there. There's depth, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Not to say they're going to win the Super Bowl, but they're going to be in that conversation for, whoa, watch out for them. They're an AFC playoff contender for sure.
And that's where I think I wholly agree with you on everything except to that point, because I think 2022 is serious nut cutting time for this Patriots version. There's no Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
There is a lack of personnel really on the offensive line. J.C. Jackson and Steph Gilmore have left the defense. They're fumigating the linebacker room. All of those things have Belichick kind of walking out on a thin branch with Mac Jones in his second year as starter. Are you concerned at all as a quarterback about Mac Jones' development post-McDaniels with so much turnover just on the offensive line and on that offensive coaching staff?
To a degree, I am. I mean, it doesn't make me think differently of Mac Jones. I still think, he's going to be a hell of a football player, and he's the right guy for the New England Patriots. But, Josh McDaniels is special. You know that. You talk to enough people around the NFL. I mean, Josh, in my opinion, it's him and Shanahan and McVay and, Sean Payton, and it's Andy Reid. I mean, that to me is the holy grail of offensive minds in the NFL. It's about that right there. So, yes, that's not going to be an easy adjustment. And not the fact that, hey, this will still roll. This will still be a good offense. But it's the intricate details that Josh is so good at. Or, hey, we're going to run this play, but I was thinking, Wednesday night, I should put this check with it too. So now if they do run this one defense every now you have this check that protect you. And that's where Josh separates himself from the rest of the group. So, yeah, I do think it's going to be kind of a learning curve for the whole organization, making up for no Josh McDaniels. Offensive line, hey, it wasn't nearly as dominant last year as it was the year before, the COVID year. So it is a little concerning. And like you said, they've lost a few guys. I don't know where that goes. They're sitting at pick 21. There should be a good offensive lineman there if they need it. Definitely. Wide receiver, same thing there. Whether they want to go there at 21, they certainly can. Later in the draft, there's going to be good value. But I like what they've done too. I mean, I think Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar are very good and continue to get better in that offense. And then Devontae Parker, when healthy, is a legit number one receiver. He really is.
And that's funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have they done enough around Mac? Because like you mentioned, the one interesting thing, Chris, is you look at it, you say, remember Belichick saying this to me, one of the greatest challenges of coaching Brady in the second decade of Brady's career was giving him something that he didn't know on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Sure. Challenging him, being smarter than him. And even though Mac Jones is only in his second year, he seems so advanced. There will be points at which he's like, hey, are you guys giving me stuff that I didn't have? And Josh would, I'm sure, always do that. He's, a PhD to the 10th level. Yeah. But I think that'll be interesting. Have they got enough personnel around him? And if you don't think they do, who would be a good after first round wideout to go after?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of depth. I do think, though, I think that group, when you add in Jacoby Myers with Aguilar, Bourne, and then now you throw in Devontae Parker, and then the two tight ends to go along with it, I sit there and go, they're not desperate for anything. They're pretty good. And we know New England. I mean, New England's a little bit more of like, hey, we like guys that can do it all, so you can't pin one guy to one specific area of the offense, or this guy only runs this route. They're going to let their system do it for them for the most part. Parker's the one guy that I do look at that can be that, like, oh, wait, it's one-on-one. You can't cover him. Mac Jones is going to throw a strike. But I also hear you in the fact that I'd love to see them put a little more firepower or speed over there too. Just somebody that scares a defense. Now, you get down in the draft, there's a lot of guys here. I don't like Sky Moore to me is a guy that's like Wes Welker, Julian Edelman plus special football player. I don't think he'll be there by the second round. John Mechie, okay. Yeah. Guy from Alabama, I could see that being the cup of tea and a guy that New England looks at, certainly. I don't know if that'll be second round. That might be more the third round pick or somewhere in that range.
What do you like about him?
Well, he's really smart and he's a great route runner. And you could see just even watching on film that he understands football. So he's going to be able to comprehend the schematics in New England, all the different rules. And New England, of course, why? They are great at teaching route running. So if you have a natural ability to run routes and now they teach it with you, man, it makes them really good. It's why they haven't always had superstar receivers at the position. Their system's great and they know how to coach them. So they go, wait, we get them open with these guys. We don't always need Randy Moss. That's what's special about New England. But he would be one of those guys that I would say, is interesting towards the mid-rounds of the draft. That would be one or two names that jump out to me. And there's some other guys. It just depends on where the run starts. Right. I like Alec Pierce a lot from Cincinnati.
I know you do.
Yeah. I mean, what's not to like about a guy that's 6'2", 190 or 200 pounds and runs 4.4 flat? And also has the ability to run be a great route runner. I look at him and go, that's Jordy Nelson. And I think he could be there in the second round. I'm higher on him than most. He could be a guy in the second round the Pats certainly can get and be a difference maker.
Last question, Chris. And
yeah,
I want folks to make sure to seek out Chris's top fives. We will let you know about them, Chris's top five on both sides of the ball that he's been working on prior to this draft. But last question, it seems as if there are significant dominoes that are set to fall in Baker Mayfield and, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo next week. That can really put a seismic charge through the draft. In addition to the fact so many teams are doubled up with 2 first-round picks. This could be a nuts first round.
I do think so. The quarterbacks, I don't think any really are worthy of a top 15 pick, and that, in my opinion, other than Matt Corral. Matt Corral is the only guy I look at to go, whoa, he's really close to being ready, and he has superstar talent. The other thing about the draft, that's interesting is, there's a lot of good D linemen, O linemen, pass rushers. We could see a top 10 where there's no quarterback, wide receiver, running back drafted. That's interesting. And here's the other aspect too, Tom, that's interesting, is just I do think this, even though there might not be the Myles Garrett of this draft or like the real superstar guy.
Yep.
There is 2 or 3 guys at every position that stand alone from the rest of the group to where I think there will be a charge for those guys. Like, for instance, the tackles, right? There's Evan Neal from Alabama and Ike Ekwonu from NC State. They're clearly the 2 best tackles. The third tackle is really good, but there's a drop-off from those 2. And that's the example. So I think there's going to be some wanting there. And the quarterback thing, like you said, is really interesting. And one, I don't think Carolina wants to take one at 6. I don't think Atlanta wants to take one at 8. I don't. I think they're all going to wait and realize there's better players on the board and they have needs on their roster. And I also think that's why you saw Washington sign a Carson Wentz. And I think that's why you're seeing Carolina flirt with Baker Mayfield, because they're going, this quarterback this year, we're not sure about it. I don't know if we want to take one this high, so I'd rather have a guy that I kind of know what he is in Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is the next shoe or domino that falls, to your point. Garoppolo, I'm not going to buy on that yet. I think that's going to take some time.
It's so wild when you think those teams that don't have their established quarterback, Chris, they just keep swimming around in the pool and they can't find the ladder to get out. But Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater.
I know.
Now you're on to maybe Baker Mayfield, and Mac
risky.
Jones was sitting right there.
Yeah, well, I know.
Right.
I always wonder with Carolina if, what they would have done, or because I think they made plans of Sam Darnold thinking 49ers are going to take Mac Jones at 3, so let's just go get Sam Darnold. And I think the 49ers were going to take Mac Jones at 3 until like the week of the draft, and they changed their mind. I mean, but anybody I talked to would tell you that, So that I think messed up their plans a little bit there. And then they had Sam Darnold, and I think they were like, all right, well, we got him, and we kind of believe in him. Let's go with it. But yeah, it's proving right now to be the wrong decision for sure, because Mac Jones looked pretty damn good as a rookie.
Chris, you look pretty damn good too. Thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it. And we're going to jettison you off into the remainder of your Tuesday.
Oh, thank you. So nice. You just want to jettison off to the remainder of your Tuesday and enjoy Florida. Stop trying to blame it on me.
I'm going to paddleboard in the Gulf of Mexico probably in the next 20 minutes or so. If I get hit by a dolphin, you're going to hear about it.
All right. I won't feel bad either, though. See ya.
I know you won't. Thank you.
See you, man.
All right, folks. That's a wrap. That's it. That's all that's going on this day. Okay? Make sure you check out Phil's Next Bats podcast. You have Mel Kiper. He, of course, has Jeff Halfley. BC coach is scheduled for later in the week, and we will talk to you next week. Peace out, Girl Scouts.